Hey everybody, thanks for coming back for another episode of Working Knives Around the World. Before I get started and show you this example I made for this video, I just want to reiterate that I'm not trying to replicate these knives exactly as they're intended or made. I'm making my interpretation or an example of a similar style knife to the knife. I cannot make authentic versions of these knives because I am not of that ethnicity. Some of these knives were made for hundreds of years in little villages by a local ethnic group, and they're the only ones that can truly make those knives and call them that type of knife, really. You know, I just want to, educate myself and you out there watching. Hopefully you learn a little bit from these videos. I'm learning as I go along making these videos. And I'm just making knives that have similarities to the actual knives, just something to show you, what you can make, or a little bit of a twist on that particular style of knife, Just wanted to clear that up. So in this one, I want to go back to Japan again and talk a little bit about the Higonokami. The Higinokami was a knife that was first created, so to speak, in 1896. And interestingly, the knife might not have appeared, or may have appeared quite a bit later on, if it hadn't been for the end of the samurais, believe it or not. In 1853, I think it was, Commodore Matthew Perry took a steamship to Japan to try to open them up to trade with the Western world. Prior to the 1850s, Japan was closed off to the rest of the world. They didn't do trade with anybody else. They fought their own style of wars with their warfare techniques and everything. They were isolated. They were an isolationist nation, I guess you could say. And then a U.S. Navy Commodore, Matthew Perry, went there to talk to them, and it took a number of visits and some time went by, but they ended up starting to do trade, and they changed their methods of warfare, and that was the end of the samurai era. Samurais actually got abolished. I think it was 1877. Samurai couldn't walk down the streets with a sword anymore. They weren't allowed to. Carrying a sword in public was the way they showed the public that they were samurai, and they weren't allowed to do that anymore. So you had all these sword makers out there that needed a job. So they started making tools and knives. And shortly thereafter, there came along the Higonokami. And here's some examples of some of the Higinokamis that you can buy now online, right here. Okay, so yeah, you can, as you can see, you can buy one pretty cheap in the $20 range, or you can spend $1,400 on one if you wanted to. Now the thing is, they're Higinokami style knives. Okay, you're not allowed to call a Higinokami unless you're this one company, and here they are. I won't try to pronounce their name; I'll butcher it. But supposedly, this company is the only one that can truly sell one of these knives and call it a Higinokami. So yeah, back in 1910, there was when they first started up, 1896 to 1910, there was 40 different companies making these knives, and quality started going down the tubes, and they didn't like it, and they didn't like their name being associated with lower quality knives that were being produced. So in 1910, they established this. I think that's when the guild was created over there in Japan, to regulate who could make the knives and call them Higinokamis. And then there was very few after that, and then I guess most recently now it's that one company that I just showed you, and they're the ones that can do it. So I knocked this out the other day, and I only spent a couple of hours on it, making it. Okay, so I'll tell you what makes this a Higinokami style. The fact that it has this thumb button right here, and the fact that it's a one-piece housing, and it has a flat grind with no secondary bevel, and that's it. Other than that, this is my own design, and there's not another one out there like it, because I just shaped it and made it as I went along. Here's the blade, and you put your thumb right here when you're using it to hold it open. And yeah, I did put a flat grind, no secondary bevel on this blade. And traditionally they would have been made out of brass, and then I think they coated them black a lot of times. But I think the housings were always black. The handle portion was brass. On mine, this is stainless steel, 300 series stainless steel, and I bent it over. I made the blade. Mine pivots in a totally different place. If you look at those pictures, you know, it has, you know, a place to put your thumb, but other than that, it's, you know, it's longer, and it's nothing like the Higinokami style knife. You know, the blade shape is fairly close in that, with the skew tip and everything. Yeah, so on mine I didn't have any brass tubing the right size, so I just took a piece of brass rod and I drilled a hole, put it in there, and then I drilled a hole in the middle of it because I wanted to put a thong on it. I've got the pivot pin pretty tight, so there's no risk of it opening in your pocket. I was going to make a slip for it, but to be honest with you, I probably you know, won't be carrying this knife or anything like that. I just you know, made it for the video. I did electro etch an oak leaf on it. The original Higinokamis had all kinds of pictures on landscape, animals, floral designs, lots of different things. When that guild was established, they did tell them on the ones considered Higinokamis have to have the maker's name and the type of steel they use for the blade was you know, put on the handle. Yeah, so it's just a simple friction folder, nothing fancy to it. Yeah, samurais had a good run, 700 years in Japan, and swordsmiths in post-samurai Japan were really struggling to make a living, so they had to start making tools and knives and things like that, and these little pocket knives right here were part of it, and they started making, you know, similar knives, or knives of this style, you know, this general style. I think I covered everything I can think of that I wanted to cover. You know, I don't want to go into a big long history lesson on Japan and everything. That's not what this series is about. It's just to show you knives that were used, working knives, and this is, you know, sharpen your pencils, cut your apples, your meat and cheese with it, just everyday, everyday use work knife, you know, from Japan. So anyway, this is Dave. I appreciate you watching. Come on back for the next one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate it. So this is Dave. I'll see you.